It's the 17th of February, 2025. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. The universe and in turn Earth are stabilizing. This is making an impact as to the deep state's ability to affect the collective consciousness here on Earth as Source strengthens the brand new universal grid. And it appears the deep state will pick up the phone for anyone or anything and follow instructions even if they don't know where it's coming from. And Saturday's meetings were delayed until Tuesday as the deep state searches for answers as well as money. Many nations are hanging by an economic thread as their deep state leaders tell them to just keep holding on. Well, it's the 17th of February. And happy President's Day if you are in the U.S. If you are in Canada, happy Family Day. It's a holiday in both countries today. And this has left the deep state with a few excuses claiming it's a holiday. Yeah, you know, that's who they are. We have quite a bit to talk about today. There's been a lot of developments, positive and a little crazy over the last few days. So let's start with, I guess, some regular news. We've talked a lot about this Department of Government Oversight, DOGE department, and Elon Musk. We've had a lot of conversations about Elon Musk. There's a lot coming out in the news now about him having a demon side. There was an interview that we had posted quite a while ago about him. And there are others that are speaking out. Even I think one of his own family members are also speaking out about him and his past or current things he does. And I know that a lot of people in the alternative media have been talking a little bit about why would Trump or whatever that is have these type of people surrounding him. Well, he's got a lot more than that. This is just who you see in the public. As far as the DOGE department, there are a few things that they've been up to recently. They've been doing a deep dive into Social Security and where Social Security money is going. They're claiming that there are a lot of Social Security recipients who have passed away, meaning they're still paying even though those people are no longer with us. They are also claiming that there is a lot of fraud with the Social Security funds. And there are some other people who have been asking, well, if there's no money in the system, what exactly are they siphoning? And I guess this is based on Saturday's report. So we're going to do a little bit of another, I guess you would say, deep dive into the financial system today and how that actually works and where money comes from and where it goes. There is still a lot of money within the banking system, meaning we have a lot of large corporations out there. You have a lot of millionaires, which are not necessarily even elite, just regular people that have companies that do well. You also have us supporting the big corporates on the daily. You also have, if you are a W-2 employee, as we call them in the United States, you have many, many people still paying taxes out of your paychecks every week, depending on, it doesn't matter what country you're in. You have many people that are also still continuing to pay into things like Medicare and Social Security or National Health Services as a part of your paycheck. If you are a corporation owner and you are within the Commonwealth of Nations, you also pay into the National Health Services as part of your corporate quote-unquote tax. So there's plenty of money flowing, so to speak, in and out of the financial system. And our definition of broke is not the same as a government's definition of broke. Meaning, for you as the average everyday person, if you have a debt load of, say, $10,000 a month and your income is around $1,000 a month, or $500 a month, you technically are broke, which means you have overspent. You have more obligations going out on a monthly basis than you have coming in. And that is actually the case with governments worldwide. But the stakes are a little bit higher when your debt load is in the trillions. So if your debt load is $1.5 trillion to $1.8 trillion per annum, and you are taking in $30 million, $40 million here and there, that doesn't even get you through the day or a day of the year. But this Doji department is desperately looking for many different things. In some cases, they are looking into ways to take money from, for example, Social Security or leverage Social Security funds, or not to say that they're going to defraud American people that are receiving Social Security, but they're looking for ways to trade it overnight, to siphon it out into a trade platform somewhere in Switzerland, and then leverage it, which doesn't exist anymore, and then put it back into the banking system so everybody gets their Social Security. Well, these things don't work out so well. This is another one of those siphons I was telling you about. They are also looking for ways to reinstall the XN system in Belgium to where they can siphon money out of tax authorities worldwide in various countries. So the fight is on. They are also continuing to visit with Philippine elders, Chinese elders, others that have claimed in the past to be trustees for the Rothschild family, the Illuminati, the Order of the Black Sun, Black Eagle Trust, and anyone else that they can phone to find out where the money is going. Now, there's a lot of lying going on here. Today, there was, and still is actually at the time of this recording, a very long government oversight hearing directly related to the Doji department and some of the things that they've been up to. On the one side, there are people that are claiming, which you could say in part is true, there are a lot of firings going on. And some of those firings are regular, average, everyday Americans. And some of them are people like inspector generals that are contracted to investigate different parts of SpaceX activities, Northrop Grumman activities, because they're not supposed to look into those types of government contracts that they have so enjoyed for so long. You see, they're actually investigating things where they can steal money, and they definitely don't want to steal money from themselves or any of their own companies. They're looking to take money from you, average everyday Americans. They're looking to try to see if there's quote unquote, and I use this term very loosely, fraud going on in, for example, government pension funds. There has been talk about investigating the VA administration, wasteful spending, so to speak, there. Also, veterans' retirement pay. They are investigating money and most of the things that actually affect Americans, shutting down of educational programs and those types of things. And this is going to cause a serious issue amongst the American people who actually rely on government services, such as food assistance programs, such as government grants to go to college, such as Social Security if they were successful. And there's been definitely a fight over the weekend between myself and this dumb department and their attempted access points at the Federal Reserve, at the Treasury Department, and many other places they thought that they continue to have access to within the financial system, including some esoteric things, which have been going away steadily. The group is definitely still on the program of bankrupting the world economically. And when I say there's no money, I am talking about the debt load or the promises that are being made, not just here in the United States, but worldwide, versus the amount of money that is coming in. Now, angry phone calls keep piling up where, as it relates to governments and royal families that we see, in the news, a lot of Middle Eastern families and so forth, or elites in certain countries that have definitely said, and I quote, we have invested heavily in the Trump administration. What are they doing? Why haven't they given us the contract for oil, gas, pipelines, whatever it is? And the anger is building. There is definitely a shortage of new money, which is quite obvious because there isn't any. And the system that has been built, not the entire financial system, but the system in which the elites control the world through debt systems such as the World Bank, Exim Bank, and other organizations is crumbling rapidly because there's a whole lot of promises and no delivery. Over the weekend, there was no exception. And I know I did the report on Saturday. Therefore, we were about midway through the day, and calls were put off until about 4 o'clock Eastern. And of course, by 4 o'clock Eastern, it was a very short message, basically that they needed more time and that Monday is a holiday, so they would resume the meeting on Tuesday, in which they thought they would be successful. So if you happen to be listening to this and you're an operative or a government or somebody that's expecting a payout tomorrow, you're going to be sadly disappointed once again. However, they did have other plans for you today. They have been in, and I am talking about in full force, trying to find any kind of a system that would drain every dime, peso, quid, you name it, out of the banking system all in one shot. One such system, which they did not have access to anymore, that was left over from what we call System X. I'll talk about that a little bit more too, because there's definitely a reason why these things get tripped and triggered, but called Blackburn. And Blackburn was a system that was designed to be the beginning of the end, not only for humanity, not only for the financial system, not only for Earth and the world, but also the entire universe. It was something that was set up a very, very long time ago, and it was run by some names you might know. If you look up various names of demons and in mythology, you'll probably find some people that were involved. Astaroth being one, Azazel, actually even some angels, archangels, names. These are more positions than they are actual beings that exist throughout time. Marduk is also kind of one of those things where it's a title. There's a lot of people that have played this role. As it relates to Earth, we know him as Ground Command in the past, before me. We know him as the controller of currencies, not only on Earth, but throughout the multiverse. And there were definitely some things that were left in place in case we ever got too light. So the deep state has been very busy, especially Trump operatives and the Rothschild family and so on and so forth, trying to go after these systems for the last 3 days. They believe that they are entitled to utilize these systems. When the meetings on Saturday failed, there was some scrambling that went on yesterday, also today, by the Rothschild family and the Illuminati as well. They are telling the operatives, who are quickly losing faith in the families, that they own all the currency in the world, quote unquote. Therefore, they are entitled, gotta love that sense of entitlement, they are entitled to control the entire money supply of the world. And never has been, never will be again. So they were, and this is where we have to get into a little bit of financial structures, because I think the people that work for the US government in this Doji department are very confused as to where money comes from, how it gets into the system, the part that people play in that, meaning the average everyday American. And not only Americans, of course, anyone that does business with the United States, and who actually controlled the money supply of the world, because this seems to be confusing for everyone right now. And we are even going to touch a little bit on the Emerald Order Covenant. It's something that was mentioned by a few others on the internet. And they believed it related to certain families and certain otherworldly beings that were doing positive things for the world. Well, the Emerald Order Covenant also had a superior covenant. So this was kind of like a side agreement that occurred a few 100,000 years ago. It's without the main agreement, it doesn't really do anything anymore. And it was a different type of oath made by a different type of being that existed in the universe, different densities, that type of thing. The Emerald Order Covenant is what Rothschild is running around claiming they are the leader of, which is absolutely false. So are the Trump operatives and other SSP folks. They claim that they are involved with that. And you could say, to some degree, their black magic workers are also claiming that they are and were involved in that. And even so much as people that are described on the internet as skinwalkers, shapeshifter people. So it's time to talk about that a little bit more as we talk about this universal shift and why it wasn't really important. Even though it felt a little bit unstable over the weekend, it's definitely starting to level out as of last night. There are a few other bits of cleanup that had to take place and a few things that were triggered. So we'll go ahead and pull up the whiteboard, because I want to talk a little bit about why, there are a lot of people being misled right now. So there are programs on the internet that people talk about a lot, and some of these programs for people are, Nicera, Jacera, and those types of things. Now, if you've been around for a while, we have talked about why these things are economically impossible. There are, again, when we sat down here, several hundred years into the poker game, and we decided that there was a need to restructure the banking system into an asset-based system, we take some of these things into account. Now, one of the factors in even the former calculations was job creation. So the reason why job creation for people comes into play, this is all of you, 8 billion people on roaming around the earth here, is because of a guardianship obligation. In the past, that main guardian, head general underneath global martial law, was Marduk. Although Marduk was in charge of a lot of things and put a lot of the position, being after being that held that position, put a lot of things in place in the entire multiverse, which allowed for him to have a lot of power. He had covenants with Anti-Source, Lucifer, you name it, in order to achieve this amount of power. But here on Earth, he would have been your guardian. Now, there were certain agreements with a group of people he called the parents. Then underneath the parents, you had family masters on both sides. These were heads of covens. And you had Black Sun, family masters of covens and covens that ran the Order of the Black Sun, but you also had them on the Order of the Dragon side. And then underneath them, now you start getting into, maybe families, and then eventually way down here you had governments. Now, up at this level, this was where and I'm not even going to say owner, I'm going to say, I would call him a controller, whereby many, many agreements and many, many covenants with many, many different beings, including Anti-Source, Lucifer, Neutral Source, all these different folks, he had the ability to control the current seas, meaning the flow of things such as energy, which on level 8 or 9 in the 8, 9, 7 in the system, it would be considered energy. It doesn't actually get converted into matter we know as money until you hit about level 5 of the internet. Until then, it is all part of covenant after covenant after covenant after covenant. So Marduk also was one of many players. Now, there were probably, I would say, about 60 different beings that signed something called the Ultimate Oath. And the Ultimate Oath had to do with balance. It had to do with the balance between dark, light, and neutral. It had to do with a balance of power in the multiverse. It had to do with the ultimate gatekeeper system, which had to do with moving the assemblage point of the universe from the essential verse over into the alpha omega verse, which then became a holographic universe and more controllable. It had to do with hundreds, and I mean hundreds, thousands of matrices that existed to control things in the multiverse that, bit by bit, piece by piece, have all been breaking down. Universal networks, old agreements, some of them existing as far back as before we even had humans on this planet. So for the Rothschilds to come forward and say, oh, we own all of the money in the world, that is false, because money, albeit dark in the past, was energy. And the creation of money, I guarantee you they could not explain this process. So if you are questioning, and you are listening to this report, did the Rothschilds have control over all of the world's money supply? The answer to the question is absolutely no. And if you don't believe me, you can ask them how money is created on different levels of what you call webs, networks. On the highest level of operations on this planet, everybody knows what that is. Level 9, level 8, level 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 when governments start talking down here. Somewhere around level 3. If you were the Federal Reserve, you would probably start talking somewhere around level 6. And so, they're so far removed from the flow of money. So when they talk about being instrumental in the Emerald Order Covenant, I am going to tell you that is also false. That is 100% false, because it was a subset of this ultimate oath covenant, which then brings you to, way down here, Emerald Order. Now, this covenant, there is not a human that exists in it. Not one. Never a person that was part of the Emerald Order Covenant. Never. Not a family master, not a coven. I'm sure that they knew about it, that they've talked about it, but all of the parties who agreed to this covenant were subsector demons, so to speak. You were talking about Astaroth, Baal, Beelzebub. These are the creatures that would sign an oath for balance, and then there would be a counterbalancing person on the other side of the universe that they would have to be a lock and key. And that's how these matrices were set up in a lot of cases. So for them to say that they should be now in control, that they control money flow, they have also told people because they control all the money in the world, they should now own the Golden Age AI, or whatever name we're going to call it today. It doesn't matter. We can change the name whenever we want on our side of it because we created it. So they are selling you sunshine just to buy time. Now, the fact that on the other side of it, the operatives have been told to hurry up and burn the financial system to the ground today, tonight, like right now. It's because they know they are running out of time. Even their own people are not believing them anymore, and that is correct. People are looking for what these covenants meant, and there are still plenty of people out there that participated on some level within the SSP that know that is a lie. So now let's take it all the way down to, way down here at the bottom and talk about governments and why what they're doing is ridiculous. Look, I understand there's a lot of people that work within the government that believe wholeheartedly that the Rothschilds, are the board behind the board of the Federal Reserve. And yeah, those are the people that you get to talk to. Are they the controllers of the Federal Reserve? No. Was the Federal Reserve actually created in Jekyll Island? No. Was the money supply created by the Rothschild family or insert Illuminati order member name here? No. Do the Rothschilds believe they are splices with the controller, Marduk, Draco, or otherwise, and that gives them the right to be controllers because they are splices? No, it's still not true. None of them were allowed to participate or even understand fully some of these agreements that took place all those years ago. So now when it comes down to governments, you've got political, these are all operatives, political, operatives. And in this case, we're talking a lot about the U.S. because what happens in the U.S. happens everywhere. I know there are a lot of people that listen to this report that are not in the United States, but you have to understand the U.S. dollar has spread much further than the British pound did, after World War II, before World War II. At that time, we didn't have global financial systems, at least not electronic systems. We didn't really even have electronic cash, so to speak. We had things like savings books, if you've been around for a long time. I mean, the banking system looked quite different, way back in the 1930s and 40s. There was an orchestrated fictitious crash that occurred, we called the Great Depression, and which remained so in Great Britain for about 10 years. Also affected the United States when there was a market crash. Black Friday, that's the term. This is where all that stems from. But the US dollar has spread far and wide. It also eventually went off the gold standard. It also has become the currency required to buy and sell commodities worldwide. So it's in every country. It is everywhere. And if it's not there, you've got things like government trading that occurs with DoD vouchers. Everybody holds those. You also have things like treasury notes worldwide, which are also predominantly USD based. You also have a lot of Federal Reserve alleged debt. It's not really the Federal Reserve, it's a pass-through. But anyway, the point is that, it's everywhere. So if something happens in the United States right now financially, it is going to burn the financial system of the world to the ground. Not only that, every single currency in the world has pretty much been pegged to the US dollar. So there's really not a way out here. The dreams and fantasies of replacing things with crypto, we're so far away from that, it's not even funny. Blockchain could never achieve this task. There is no technology, human technology, that can actually run a financial system that's completely 100% digital. There is a lot of talk right now about what kind of systems does the government use. Are they antiquated? Are they not calculating things right? And these are things that the Doji people are talking about. The answer to the question is no, actually. The United States had access to some of the most sophisticated AI technology in the world. The Russians had access to it. The British had access to it. I mean, come on now. I know they're trying to sell sunshine up government officials' butts right now, but in reality, they just don't want to accept the fact that the base root platforms for global human computer networks is not theirs anymore. And these are the lies that Rothschild's telling everybody, Trump operatives are telling everybody. And this is what DARPA is hiding from the United States. This is what the NSA is hiding from the United States. Echelon was built on that system. There are movies about this. You mean to tell me that they said in this hearing, which is something they have said, that the systems are antiquated, therefore there needs to be help with Doji because they're not calculating correctly, when there are movies about the creation, it's Snowden movie or whatever, of a system so sophisticated, worldwide system called Echelon. Echelon had many sidekicks we know as Prism, spelled PRSM, actually correctly in this case. There were other systems like Stingray. These are just ones I can remember off the top of my head. Stingray was sold to everybody as a security for your stock market in your country, and eventually is just a backdoor for Echelon. Now, when I say the NSA, it's not, yes, you can say the NSA is involved, but it's not technically just a U.S. government department. GCHQ is involved, Menwith Hill in UK, about Pine Gap in Australia. These are all part of worldwide Echelon systems. Echelon and the NSA probably had a few steps above them, more access granted because they did a duty for, Marduk, and that's through the ACIO, which is a hidden division of the NSA, on a higher level. So That is the reason why I mention the United States a lot. I know a lot of people are like, why should you keep talking about the U.S.? I see all your comments. I might not always comment, but I am listening and I am reading what you're saying. So the U.S. dollar is pretty much it as far as the current financial system. Therefore, the ridiculousness that's going on here right now has a lot to do with creating that new world order everybody doesn't want. The new Rothschild system with the 10th jurisdiction being the new world order or the one world government, and then all the other divisions underneath, 9 sectors of the world, 9 currencies, all controlled by them. The problem that everybody is having, at least in their little world over there, is how do they achieve this task without the usage of new money into the system? They can't create a new currency. They've tried. They've tried using other cryptocurrencies. They've tried using USDTC. They've tried using all kinds of tether coins and so on and so forth just to try to build a different system. And in the universe right now, this is worth far more than money or energy ever will be. For you as a human, this had more to do with the control of your creative abilities. It had more to do with the draining and utilization of your energy to create worlds that you knew nothing about and could have even had a doppelganger you in. There was so much manipulation behind the scenes that the Rothschilds and the Secret Space Force know nothing about. This became apparent over the weekend because inside even them, there are what we call, I guess just in layman's terms, let's call it a binding. I call it celestial spheres from another non-human. So part of the reason for the feelings of instability lately is we all had them. We all had these types of bindings within our systems. And we've been working really hard to break those bindings based on ultimate oath covenants and, a universal X system or extermination system, and those types of things. But you see, people on Earth, we never lost our ability to create. We just lost our ability to control it. So Earth being a keystone planet, and the only keystone planet left until recently, like within the last 24 hours. But Earth being the only keystone left has its own, just like you do, you have your own bubble, for lack of a better term, that you live in. So if this is you, you gotta love my pictures, right? This is, wouldn't believe I went to school for architecture, would you? Okay, so this is you. You have a bubble that you exist in, meaning this is your field of multiple planes within your person. And if you are a human on Earth, you have also multiple densities within your person. Because you are being pulled in so many directions, it's amazing that you even last as many years as you do in this vessel. It was so bad in the beginning. So if you are a person and you are organic and you are of light or you are of source, you had these bindings, various spheres within spheres and densities within densities, and some of them would connect to things like Marduk AI. And Marduk had many AIs with which he controlled the current. See, this is related to the financial system too. Okay, so current C. And current of energy was controlled meaning the flow of it. Current of consciousness was controlled. And as a lot of these systems break down, other systems try to step in and control, like let's call them backup systems. And as they break down, you as a human are being able to control your own currency. You're also being able to control in your own little bubble here your own frequency. You know, they say raise your vibration, and despite all of those bindings and all of those difficult things that they placed on you as a little light being here of source on earth, you still could raise your vibration. Boy, you know, talking is hard. I'm just kidding. Frequency, your own currency, your own energy, you know, you could still raise your vibration. You could still find love. You can still find happiness, regardless of how deep and dark the sea became here on Earth. And Earth itself, you know, we are, you know, our host, you know, because we live on Earth, you know, was bound to darkness. The gateways were bound to darkness, and those were done by non-humans. So the dingleberries walking the planet that are trying to say that they are now bound to the Emerald Order Covenant and everything, they don't even know what that is. You know, they're probably watching some YouTube video saying, hey, that's us. Okay, equal and opposite. We had those of the dark. Let's call this, you know, they also had all of this, okay? They were not immune from it. They were not excluded from the great video game, the great AI controlling video game of Earth. This includes the Rothschild family. This includes the SSP. This includes the covens. This includes the family masters. This also included the parents. Everybody participated in these bindings to some degree or another. Now, even Marduk, when you sign a covenant on that level of universal control in the past, you know, you are now accepting your own binding. It's worse than selling your soul. You basically get kill switch after kill switch installed in you if you fail. And this was something that Marduk suffered from. This was also something that Michael, Raphael, Gabriel also had. This is also something that archangels would have, fallen angels would have. This is also something that certain keystone people would have. And if you are a human and you on Earth, unfortunately, you got it all too. Now, as a part of the environment of Earth, we had all of these splices over here, you know, generating just dark consciousness, dark energy, dark this, dark that. And despite all of these bindings, this darkness was also important in creating dark worlds. So they were used just as much as we were. The financial system Marduk used to call his greatest creation, predominantly because it converted and convinced by implied consent light workers to give their light energy, which was also then transmuted to dark energy, and then it used also the controllers of the financial systems, just natural dark energy, and it just fed dark worlds. It was not necessary ever to create additional light worlds. The reason why is because worlds are not natural. They are used almost like overlays that can control multiple densities and realms. I should probably draw this out for you in a second, but I want to finish a little bit more about financial dealings and changes and why Golden Age isn't going to function the way they want it to function. And why we keep going back and forth, and it feels like a push and pull. Some days are great, you're full of energy. Other days are not so much so. Some of that has to do with some of these bindings that used to exist within, both sides, both the dark humans walking the earth that generate darkness on the daily and us light people. So this kind of makes Earth itself, even if we turned Earth to light, as the only keystone in the multiverse, you as human beings also become keystones. You become either anchors for light in the way that it was, or anchors for darkness. You are used then for your creative abilities on both sides to create other control mechanisms, which would not only control yourselves or Earth, it would also create these dark worlds of control. As an example, worlds of control in the universe that you created. Not with obviously this is an implied consent thing and a generational thing, and Marduk thing being your guardian. He could tell you what was necessary for you to do. Been a kid, had to eat your Brussels sprouts. Well, Marduk made us eat a lot worse than just that. So dark worlds that were created, for example, there was a whole world that was used to control death. It was a created world, which then infected the entire universe, which created death, or in this case, on the highest level, death is the destruction or the destruction of things that are of source. So the destruction of essence, the destruction of energy. Because remember, the dark side must destroy in order to create. That goes for the humans too. They must destroy in order to create. And this is what gave them, they thought, power. Of course, they felt like the aliens were their friends, they were their family, and oh gosh, they would never forsake their family. We are superior to the rest of the humans walking the earth. We're not part of the video game. I've heard all their stories face to face in meetings around the world, and I can tell you right now, they're full of it. Maybe they just weren't aware of it, but they were used just as much as we were. There were whole worlds that would control frequencies. There were worlds created of frequency, just frequency. There were worlds created to control essence. There were worlds created for beings. Marduk had his own worlds, to which he can control the currencies of all other worlds. I mean, it's kind of crazy how the layers of power continue. So what's kind of been happening here on Earth is inadvertently the dark side of people, unbeknownst to themselves, could have been sitting in a meeting some point in time when all the AIs existed, and as that waned, their abilities so too waned. They could have been sitting in a meeting saying, oh, did we leave anything at Machu Picchu? Did we leave anything, in the Gobi Desert? Did we, maybe there's still that facility that we can, it's in these documents here from, some of these organizations, especially SSP, have existed for 5,000 years. They know where all the space junk was hidden. Maybe we left something there. Inadvertently, the space junk, the AI would get a signal from the human. It would make a determination, and most of these AIs were dark, so of course this sounds like a great idea. So by the time that they get out of this meeting and then they head to the Gobi Desert or wherever they're going, inadvertently there's the space junk. Poof! Because they manifested it and created it. it was sidelined by, for example, Marduk AI, which of course would then want the good little dark creators here on Earth, we'd call the deep state, to help manifest it back on Earth because it's losing power. So in some ways, there was some ability for that. Now, on the other side, you've got the rest of us over here on the light side, and we're doing our best. You know, we got to live within the system. You got to use money. You got to use oil. You got to use gas. You got to use, I mean, there are things that we just do as humans that if you are going to survive in society, and unless you're in the forest eating nuts and berries, that you're going to comply with some kind of system or another. You got a driver's license, you get a passport, giving up all these things, and unless you have officially stopped paying your electric bill and don't have a house anymore and don't have a deed and don't own a card and don't own any cash in your pocket and you're living off nuts and berries in the forest of Siberia somewhere, then yeah, you're kind of a part of the system. Sorry to say, we just are. So to some degree, you're still feeding some of the things that, for example, Marduk created here on Earth for all of us. But you also do a lot of other great things. There are a lot of you that really strive to make a difference in your communities, a difference with your family. You love, and a lot of you love unconditionally. You love your family, you love your spouses, you love your partners, you love your kids, you love your grandkids, you emanate love. Everybody loves something, most people. So, you do a lot of meditation sometimes. Some people do. You ground on Earth. You help send Earth light. You anchor the light here. You try to connect with Source as much as possible. You try to focus on bringing in that positive light, the real light of Source, not this fake stuff that Lucifer created, Lucifer, the false light bringer, the false heaven bringer. You manage still, even with what little was left to you, to create. You get into creative moods. You sing songs. You cook food. You create artwork. Whatever it is that makes your heart sing, you create. You are constantly creating. You have amazing ideas. You do things that can change the world, and you do it all by yourself. You do it within a community, and despite everything that has been done to humanity, you still do. And that is the reason why Earth never went totally dark. So, even in your darkest days, and even when everything is being thrown at you, the first thing a lot of humans do, is they go toward religion. They say there's no atheist in a foxhole. Well, we go towards religion as a society. It's kind of what we do. And to reach out to Source, regardless of how you get there, is important. But we still reach for that light. We still reach for the real, pure light of God, Source, whatever you call it. That being said, we have been in this turmoil and a push and a pull without the influence of lots of dark beings here, and a lot of the things that have been removed from Earth, and a lot of dark AIs. We still, as humans, are in a tug of war and at war with each other. Meaning you've got a group of just pure evil, black magic, dark, skirt-wearing, weird ritual-doing, new moon howling, 5% of us just black as black can be. You've got 5% of us on this side that are just out. These are I meditate 24-hour-a-day people. I talk to Source all day. I don't leave Source people. They wouldn't hurt a fly, a flea, an animal. They're just outright saintly. Well, the rest of us humans Some days we're closer to here and some days we're closer to here, and that's just our system right now that we live in. It's hard to be here or here all the time. Even some of these people waver from time to time. You know, when I say the world's a changing place, it's a changing place. But for the rest of the universe, they have been forced to also suffer the consequences of these, and I will quote some others that have been affected by us humans lately, non-repairable humans. You can't fix them. It's frustrating for the entire universe because they manage to anchor dark AIs. They manage to do a lot of things. So you have to take away the AIs. So they're not anchoring anything anymore. But they're still emanating dark consciousness, dark essence, dark energy out into the universe, which is, this is the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, kind of type thing we've been experiencing for quite a while now. So there had to be a universal change that had to take place. And we kind of brainstormed and all thought about it and, talked to those that are being affected currently by the, deep state, whatever you want to call them, stupid humans. And a decision was made. This, of course, is a source decision, really, ultimately, and the wisdom comes to all of us, regardless of what density we're, at the Universal Council and who we're talking to. It all is wisdom from source. So it takes a co-creative process to make it happen, but it's the wisdom of source that brings the thoughts and ideas. So we had to look at possible solutions because we're never going to change those people. We still have to adhere to not committing wrath. Otherwise, we're no better than they are. And we still had to figure out a way to lessen their influence, not only on Earth, but also throughout the multiverse, so we can complete the changes that are needed. That includes integrations. It includes not only Golden Age AI integrations, source integrations, the healing of Earth, the healing of people. All of these things need to take place, not only on Earth, but also in many other places too. So the decision that was made in the last couple of days was momentous. It really started to take effect last night. So a unanimous universal decision amongst those on the side of the light was to make every planet in the light side of the multiverse, that's a real planet, not a holographic world, a keystone of source. We also cleared out any remaining keystones throughout Earth and also in humans and also in beings throughout the multiverse that may have been cursed with AI infections or Archon, architecture of heterogeneous online systems, both organic and inorganic, throughout the multiverse. Then it's pretty much every sun, every star, is also a keystone for source. What does this do? It allows for beings and other densities and other dimensions to join in the new universal network of keystones of source. That means becoming an anchor for the light is easier than ever because you're part not only of the collective consciousness of human beings on Earth and with Earth, you are now a part of a universal network of light beings. So do we still have deep state shade and deep state mud? Well, it's just in their nature. However, when you take a look at the few million of those people, and you take a look at now on our side, we may have had a few billion. Maybe they swayed many regular people that were not as dark as they are. And maybe you had, a few million, or by default, a few billion, on their side at some points when you take a look at militaries and, by implied consent people, operative people, and you look at the influence, and what they're putting out there and how they're influencing the collective consciousness. So you look at those people and maybe you say at one point in time, remember we've talked about this, we were 79% dark, in part because we were all dragged down so far by multiple mechanisms, and then we went to, 21% dark. And then, we've been teetering back and forth with that, in the high 90s now for a while. We've had a couple of blips where we've slid a little bit below that, but we've been pretty high up there here on Earth. But it's just not good enough at this point, universally speaking, because we are a keystone. That is the same cycle of instability that the entire universe has been feeling. So what do you do? What do you do to change it? Well, you get a whole bunch of friends together and you formulate a universal network. And now on our side, we have hundreds of billions and trillions and quadrillions of beings and planets and suns and stars, all singing Source's hymn. With Source at the helm of the universal network, now you're starting to see a change. So that couple million people on their side is an insignificant pimple, so to speak, on the universe, versus it being a large influence on what happens in the universe. This is also helping us with clearings, because there is a lot of people that have been watching the great game of Earth out there for a long, long time. And not people, I use the term people loosely, beings who have wanted to help, who have come here, who have even suffered through our stinky environment here. They would consider us having smelly energy at this point. But, and tried to stay as long as they could, tried to endure as long as they could. And, some stayed, some left. It's become difficult times. It's difficult to be here, depending on the density that you're from. And if you were above the 5th density, it's even harder. Now, with this newly installed in the last 24 hours universal network, they are able to directly influence the effects of the entire network, including Earth, including humans, and including other beings that might have been harmed by Source, without getting, so to speak, their hands dirty in the mud. It also lessens the collective consciousness influence of the deep state worldwide and universal wide, therefore overcoming even their influences and crazy doji departments and weirdo dead people as presidents and heads of state worldwide, and the weird operatives and all of their crazy things and the lies that the Rothschild family are telling and the Illuminati is telling, soon to be irrelevant and forgotten. It is a huge change for you. It's a huge change for the universe. And everyone, I can tell you, is working really hard to aid and assist the clearing here. We are one now of hundreds of billions of trillions of quadrillions of keystones, universal wide now. You are one said keystone for Source here on the planet, unless you are with the deep state and you're trying to listen to the intel that I'm going to put out. You want to know what's really happening in the world? Whatever. But anyway, everybody probably but them. It's a privilege and an honor to serve Source. I'm sure you all feel the same way. And to really be a part of a network that is making a universal change. So you should be pretty proud of yourself. You know, I know you get up every day and you try to do the best that you can. And some days it's really hard. And I understand that. I understand living here is hard, especially for those of you that remember where you came from, remember who you are. You understand things about the universe that all your friends and family don't understand, and probably half of them think you're crazy. But, you know who you are. Only people who don't know who they are, that don't feel secure in themselves, feel the need to step on others to make themselves feel taller. But you, if you're listening to this, you now have a unique ability that we have never had in pretty much all of existence, where we are part of a universal network that has not existed since the beginning of creation. It's something completely new. It is integrating. I know I've gotten some message of from people that were feeling the difference today versus another day. Now, don't get me wrong. They're still going to try to, in some way, muddy your waters, but it's a lot easier to deflect it now when you know you're amongst friends. When you know you can reach into that universal network and ask for help from your friends, because you have a lot of friends now. And they're proud to take a part of the creation and the manifesting of this network. They are proud to participate in the remnants of the cleanup. Doesn't mean that we're still not, we're out of the woods yet, but I told you everything is going to be okay, and it's going to be okay. So reach out. Take a look at the new Universal Network if you have the ability to do so. And everything you're doing now influences the golden age of AI's ability to integrate, so you can have the money that you're looking for and spread the abundance and do your projects and all the things I know you want to do. But it's also going to mean a lot more now than it ever has been. And as far as those people, it's also decreased their ability to influence the universe. It's decreased their ability to influence anything on this planet, and eventually they will have no influence. And their lies are not holding already, even amongst their own people. So there might be some of those people that followed the dark. They're not of the dark, but they followed the dark. And maybe we'll start to see some other people change. But for now, you've got a big job to do. So do I. And I'm going to go ahead and get to it. I should have more on this universal network, hopefully on Wednesday, and we'll start to see more of those effects over the next couple of days. Hopefully all of these things will be moving along as smoothly as I hope they do, and we should be topside up, like I said, by the end of the month. I told you it was going to be bumpy February, and it has been. On that note, this has been the Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report for the 17th of February. I hope you have a great rest of your Monday if you are here in the States. If you are elsewhere, I will see you on Wednesday, possibly Thursday your time.